Thanks, Natalie. So we're running quite ahead of schedule. We've got quite a lot of spare time for some questions and answers. We've had two very different talks looking at different novel technologies. So if people start thinking of some questions, please go ahead.
Hi, Benjamin, I'm a patient, but I quite like the cool science. Last year I read a paper in Nature Nanotechnology about using electrical pulses to use nanoparticles to kill cancer cells from Nottingham. So I'm assuming that's part of your team. Mm-hmm. It's really exciting. Two questions are: one is this the kind of thing that, in the fullness of time, could replace or assist surgery? And if so, how far away are we?
The second question is easier to answer because we obviously just started, so we are still quite a while away. But it does have potential because as a surgeon, when we do these operations, we have to select patients and we base it on patient fitness and tumor characteristics. So the tumor characteristics, that's the tumor characteristics. We can't change it. Is it advanced? What's the stage? If it's suitable for operation, then we look at the patient's fitness. The patient's fitness for these operations matter because there's no point getting through the operation and not making it out of hospital. So it's really important we select patients appropriately. Unfortunately, this cancer does occur in the older age group. And a lot of these patients won't be suitable for, a major liver operation. However, if we do have this technology, we can deliver local treatment based on how oncology always develops. It's never just one treatment. So this will form one of a few treatments that will be available for patients because the nanotechnology that will be used here is for local treatment, but we also have to think about the systemic treatment as well. So it's probably used as one of a few treatments.
Okay, yes, please.
Yes, my name is Barbara Zonderhuis. I'm a HPV surgeon working at Amsterdam UMC. Thanks for your nice talks. I have a question about your robotic system, about the diagnostics, because you developed it endoscopically, as I understood. Is it also possible if you use it percutaneously, since we had heard the talk of yesterday, like not passing the papilla for contaminating the bile ducts?
There wouldn't be a reason why we can't use it percutaneously, because at the moment we do use spyglass in certain cases to go through the percutaneous route. So there's no reason why we cannot do it, because the whole intention is this is going to be thinner than the actual spyglass. So it should be able to go through a PTC channel. Yeah. That's our prediction.
So maybe just following on from that question, we have a question from someone online who says, with respect to the robot, has actually anyone miniaturized the Raman spectrometers to the scale that you need to achieve this? And is that necessary?
So we have previously shown that Raman spectrometry can be used to differentiate normal cells from tumor cells. So we have done it in skin cancer, and we have done it in colorectal liver mets. So we do know the technology works. But the key thing is to develop a tool which is thin enough to go through the bile duct and then assess it through Raman spectrometry. So as I said to you, we are early stage in our plan, and hopefully our plan is to deliver this, because the engineers have to develop such thin fibers to be able to deliver this technology.
Professor Waller?
Thanks. Still focusing on both of your presentations are great, but just focusing still on the technology. Given that PSC is one of the kind of most common risk factors for cholangiocarcinoma, what role do you see this in PSC?
So we're hoping, again, because this robot, when you actually look at what Rolls-Royce has done, it's phenomenally flexible. So if we can get up to, the first channel ducts and potentially look at the second order ducts. You know, there's potential that, especially for PSC where they get multiple strictures, it could help and assist. And there's no reason why we can't use it in PSC patients.
And I have before we just move on to the digital pathology aspect, I just have one last question. You know, obviously keeping patients in mind, all these endoscopic procedures have a morbidity, bile duct perforations, etc. So how do we implement this in your initial phase, 2 trials or whatever? What issues are we anticipating we should maybe encountering and be looking out for? And, all these technologies have challenges. So how do you see the trial being implemented?
So to implement this trial, I mean, ideally, the complication rate shouldn't be more than what is currently available. So what is currently available at best now is Spyglass to look at the bile duct. And it should be similar or to a degree lesser in terms of complications, because if you're looking at how we obtain biopsies, by using this technology, especially with the 3D mapping and Raman spectrometry, we should be able to target biopsies more accurately. And we are hoping by doing that, the chance of causing a bile duct perforation would be less.
Professor Kendall.
Thanks. Now, I perhaps should know this, so apologies if I should know it. Are you planning to apply your tool to human whole slide images in any context and look at, prediction of outcome, if it's a representation of the wellness of the non-lesional liver, that kind of thing?
If you'd like to, we would definitely. I can see that being an application of what we've done. I mean, all our plans were to use it for this to speed up our own research, but I'd be more than happy to look at how we can take this further, and with your help, if that's okay.
There is always a moment in the AMOF conference where you commit to yourself to more work, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
I think we are quite cognizant that what we have trained it to do is a very specific recognition of multicellular areas within mouse liver. And Natalie and I have been, slightly testing it with some other mouse-derived inflamed liver tissues and, hopefully potentially malignant tissue as well. Now, we'll just have to keep, validating those results, like how accurate is this in different contexts. There's no reason we couldn't use the segmentation technique and retrain in other contexts. So if you have a project in mind specifically, we are very happy to run the algorithm through whatever pathology you want to look at.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to Danny, if I may. I'm really excited about this whole cholangiobotics project, but I'm just wondering, I imagine the snake robot part is going to take the longest, perhaps, to develop. So if you can produce the stent with the nanoparticles, which can be activated from outside the body, if you can do that first, would you then envisage moving that forward more quickly as a standalone project, or do all the work packages have to be done synergistically to come together at the end?
So my understanding is the funding is for 2 years. So there's quite a lot of work to be done in these 2 years. We have submitted our ethics. Because they are quite labor-intensive jobs in each of these work packages, the plan is to do it all simultaneously. And obviously, the whole point of work package 4 is to make sure there's integration between these work packages so we know where everybody is at different stages, and also how we can help each other and how we can use our expertise in our different knowledge. But the plan is hopefully to develop all the work packages. But we also have to be realistic. It's a 2-year project. Our hope is that we will be successful in all our work packages and deliver what we set out in our aims to do so. But we do estimate, appreciate there would be some setbacks or certain things we may not be as successful. But the plan is, we have hope that we should be able to deliver all the work packages due to the expertise we have in the team.
Great. Well, we look forward to hearing about the progress next year.
Thanks, Helen.
So we've had a question online, and seeing as we have a little bit of time before we introduce Helen again, that people may want to comment on either Dr. Jarman, Professor Morton, or Dr. Conway, or anyone else who's received funding from the AMMF. And the question is, how important does the panel think that AMMF funding was for their projects, and would other funders have supported these projects sufficiently? I don't know if anyone wants to comment on that and how crucial AMMF input has been to the research.
I can comment. So as an early career researcher, I guess these smaller pots of money really let you do the pilot research that goes on to do the bigger funding. So they are hard to come by, the smaller pots of money, and they're highly competitive. And I think when you're up against, the bigger cancer types, there are lots more avenues for money. But for cholangiocarcinoma, it is such a rare cancer that actually these funding opportunities aren't always there. And I think, trying to get that pilot data to really sort of give you some momentum is really key. And actually, it'd be nice to track where people are after they've had their little funding pots, because actually I think if you can see where people have gone after these awards, you'd see that it was key.
So my institution in particular has been looking at the financial benefits from research grants that these types of small funding projects have then led on to, and certainly found that they are getting, extremely good value for money in terms of the return back on larger research grants. So I don't know if you want to comment on anything, Danny, but I would say that these are really crucial in terms of attracting bigger project grants.
I think I can comment on the MMF funding. I think the research grants have been absolutely vital because they take sometimes a bit of a risk. They look at things from a different point of view. It's not always what the bigger charities are doing. They can appreciate that a lot of the time grants can fail. Because you have to take a risk. So they're not depending that you've already got the data, that you've already got all the preliminary information there. So I think, the AMMF are doing an absolutely vital job of supporting researchers at all stages of their career, early, middle, and late. And I think that's a fabulous thing that they're doing.
Professor Bridgewater?
I completely support all of that. The sort of early access to small grants to get a foot on the ladder is absolutely critical. I mean, if you compare this, getting an MMF grant to trying to get an MRC or a CRUK grant, it's a different league. You have to have multiple sponsors, multiple bits of preliminary data, everything incredibly well wrapped up for one of those bigger grants. And increasingly the big funders are going for even bigger projects. They're going for like 1 or 2 massive projects rather than other projects to get people started. And the getting people started thing, I think, really is important for young investigators. Okay, a young investigator is never going to get their foot into a MRC thing unless they're stellar anyway, and there's probably only one of those.
See Professor Khan approaching.
So it's very hard. We were discussing this yesterday. It's very hard to truly measure the impact. I mean, an easy way is say, well, how many papers came out and how much more money came in? But there are more subtle impacts that are very, very hard to measure. So folks, if you think it's hard to get funding for cholangio now, imagine what it was like in 2002 when I started. No funder had any interest in liver cancer, any type of liver cancer, cholangiocarcinoma. And those small grants from AMMF kept me and my research alive until such a stage where some years down the line, actually the thinking shifted and liver cancer was on the agenda. So there are some, some immeasurable, huge impacts that happen with these, smaller grants, and they're not that small, and in the great context. I mean, grants can go into tens of millions, but I just wanted to put a shout out to that aspect of impact that is less easily measurable, but nonetheless very powerful.
Yeah, and I don't know if Jen Morton might want to comment on this at all, but certainly in Scotland, the Cancer Research UK Centre now has a liver theme, and I'm sure that is in no small part to work that has been initially funded through AMMF and other small project grants. So I just thought that was an important point to make. Okay.
May I ask, because we have still time, may I ask, so now that we see that cholangiocarcinoma research has been funded by AMF and that has been crucial for starting up bigger projects, would it be interesting that we actually give feedback to the greater foundations, bigger ones, in national, international, because what is of course a trouble, because they haven't seen the niche 20 years ago, do they see the niche now? And do they see it for other rare cancers? But especially now, of course, for cholangiocarcinoma. So is there initiative necessary to go back to the foundations who give big grants for research to say, like, this is the area of need and you should have a year plan? Usually foundations have a couple of year plans, and to put it in somewhere. Has there been initiatives to go back to grant appliers? Maybe Helen?
Well, I think probably Shahid or John could speak to that area better than me, but I would just say that when we first began, one of our aims was always to encourage research. We don't have to encourage it so much now because it's coming to us, but to encourage and fund research. And to that end, in those very early days, we would just think, if they're doing cholangio, we'll give them the money. Now we're much more careful. We do have a scientific advisory board. The grant funding applications come into us, we look, and they go to the scientific advisory board. But I think we're possibly unusual in that our grant funding is very flexible. So we will fund a whole PhD, or we will fund consumables, or we will fund a year. We are it's not just, well, we only give X number of 50,000s, or, we are very, very flexible. And I think that's quite unusual, actually. And sometimes where we can't fund a whole project that we would dearly like to, we say, well, we can give you a year, but come back, apply again, and we'll help again. So,
and would you consider, because when you have said you do a part and let's say you need more, would you consider to go to Cancer UK or some European grant givers who to point out the area of need? Have you done that, or would you consider?
No, we've never done that. No, I'm not sure that
they
would be in our remit. So I don't know. It's a novel suggestion today, and it's something maybe we should be considering.
Because I'm aware that the rare cancers are an area of need for all the big foundations. So it's just, but maybe John, you.
So that hasn't been done, and even if you spent a little time generating a spectacularly beautiful presentation saying, these are the projects it's led on to, these are the individuals who've reached senior positions as a result of this, these are the papers that have been published. This is the global benefit of small cap funding like this. Even if you did that, there would be a reasonable chance that the big charities like CRUK and MRC would see, nice, yeah, not our job.
But perhaps the data might speak for itself, you know, in the applications, you know, we would hope. Okay, so we're going to... Professor Valla is in at the last minute.
Sorry, just a very quick comment. I think we do have to acknowledge that Cancer Research UK have really funded biliary tract cancer research very well over the past few years. ABCO 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 10, and BillCap were all funded by Cancer Research UK. So I think we need to acknowledge that, and I think in the UK we've been very lucky to get that funding. But that doesn't negate the fact that within the ecosystem, you're right, Heinz-Josef, we need to be thinking about how we can leverage some additional funding from the seed grants that are available.